Hey, well, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's my second time in Budapest, but the first time was, I think, 1990 or 1991. So it's been, I've been here a couple days. It's interesting to see how everything has advanced, and I think, the next couple decades are going to be even more dramatic in terms of the changes we're going to see. Now, of course, a lot of the changes in a place like Budapest are not visible. Many of the changes are the fact that everyone's now walking around staring at their phones all the time, right? And rather than changes in the outward buildings and roads. And the changes to occur in the next decades may be even less visible from the outside and more striking on the inside. I mean, I think we're looking at seeing these devices, these pocket supercomputers we're carrying around with us. We're looking at seeing these embedded into our brains, giving us like a direct cloud connection to the internet. So we will all be hybrid cloud devices. And of course, the software programs running on the computer chips in our heads and on the internet and in the Internet of Things around us, during the next decade or two, these are going to advance beyond the highly purpose-specific, narrow AIs that we see in the world now. We're going to see the emergence of, artificial general intelligences that can think and reason, generalize, imagine, dream, hypothesize, and create in many senses better than people. So I think we're looking at, during the next few decades, what Ray Kurzweil had called the singularity, what I.J. Good in 1965 called the intelligence explosion, when he said the first truly intelligent machine is the last invention humanity will need to make. And this singularity consists of the intersecting development of a bunch of different technologies. AI is one, as we advance from narrow AI to AGI to self-reprogramming superintelligence. Certainly genetic engineering and brain-computer interfacing and longevity biology, so we don't have to get old and die, will be part of the story. Nanotechnology, building molecular machines, maybe beyond that, femtotechnology, to build machines from elementary particles and whatnot. I mean, why not? Robotics at every scale. All these technologies, I believe, are going to be unfolding together. Quantum computing, you can't really consider any of these separately. And I also think it's going to be increasingly difficult to consider these technologies separately from the social and political environment in which they're unfolding. And this has been very striking, for example, in the world of AI. I've been doing AI for more than 30 years now. For most of that time, AI research is, it's off in one corner of the computer science department at the university. A few large companies have AI groups, mostly in the military domain, but it wasn't a big deal, right? Whereas now, AI has become a priority of large corporations, it's become a priority of national governments, and as a result, the choice of which AI algorithms get research attention is made by the defense or offense needs of governments and by the bottom line profit and shareholder value needs of large corporations, right? So we're seeing AI becoming heavily politicized and corporatized. This is going to happen with all these other advanced technologies that I'm talking about. I'm going to focus a bit on mind uploading here, the possibility of taking thoughts and ideas and your whole sense of self and will and consciousness and porting that from your physical brain into some other sort of substrate. And this is a topic I've been interested in for a while. I think I edited the first academic journal issue on mind uploading a few years ago. On the other hand, I also think mind uploading can't be considered in isolation. So after telling you a bit about my thoughts on mind uploading, I'm going to pull that back into AI and blockchain, decentralized AI, general intelligence, and some of the practical topics I'm working on now with my SingularityNET AI meets blockchain project, and then with Hanson Robotics, the company that made the robot Sofia that appeared here last year. So mind uploading, first of all, this is something where there's technological questions and there's philosophical questions, and they're both hard, but they may be hard in different ways. The technological questions I think are going to be solved in the next decades. The philosophical questions may never be solved, and that may be okay, because there are basic philosophical questions about our everyday lives that don't ever get solved. Like, are any of you really conscious, or are you just like meat puppets put here to entertain and annoy and confuse me? We haven't really resolved that yet, right? But we assume others are conscious for sake of convenience. Like, do we live in the Matrix? Am I going to wake up in 5 seconds and realize this has all been some weird and inexplicably boring dream, right? We haven't resolved these issues. We go on living our lives, right? And mind uploading, the idea of porting your mind into some different substrate than your brain, presents similar philosophical puzzles, which may or may not ever get resolved, even if mind uploading becomes an everyday technology. So say we managed to copy my mind brain and put it into a robot that was standing right here, which might look like Sofia, it might look like me, it might be a drone with a weird grinning face, whatever it is. Say that robot says, oh wow, yes, I'm Ben, I've been put in this robot body, this is pretty cool, it's a bit stiff, but suddenly I can jump 20 feet in the air, right? So how do we prove whether that copy of me is really me, or is just a robot programmed to say it's me, or does it really think it's me, but it isn't me, right? And these philosophical issues are funny to talk about now. I suspect if the technology is there, we'll rapidly learn to ignore them. And an analogy is the transporter in the original Star Trek TV show, which I watched when I was, 2 years old in 1968 or something. In the original Star Trek, the way you get from one place to another, you step into this transporter, it goes zzz, you disappear, then you reappear in some other transporter, which could be a long way away. And in the show, it's just like people are being teleported, right? They disappear here, they reappear there. Now, if you think about it, what's actually happening is they're being killed at this point, and then a copy of them is being like 3D printed from new molecules at the other point, right? So is that a horrible ethical nightmare where you're killing someone and then printing a copy that acts like it's them or even thinks it's them, but isn't them? Like what if that copy was created over there, and then the original one of you who was transported was allowed to live for an hour and then murdered, right? Then what, right? But in Star Trek, people just do it. They zip, disappear, and zip, reappear, and no one's worried about the fact that it's different molecules. And I think that's what would happen with mind uploading. Once it became possible to copy your mind, into a robot, into a character in a virtual reality or whatever it is, that's just going to be life. And it's going to be weird in some ways. Your copy might diverge from you once it has different experiences. And there, of course, will be legal issues. Who owns the property? Maybe is it the one with the original molecules? All right. What if each of the copies got half of the original molecules? And why is it the molecules that matter if yourself and mind are really the pattern of arrangement rather than the individual molecules? After all, your molecules are getting refreshed all the time by natural natural biophysics. So it's going to be strange relative to our world today. On the other hand, our world today with airplanes and the internet and such will be strange to someone 150 years ago. So people love to worry about these philosophical issues. I think once the technology is there, these philosophical issues will be ignored like we ignore all the other unsolved problems of our existence. The technological issues certainly are less trivial to wash away. Right now, you know, the best way we have to mind upload someone will be to chop off your head, freeze it, slice it really thin like with a meat slicer from the deli, then scan each slice in a scanner, and then reconstruct, you know, the connectome of your brain and the molecular structure of your brain in a computer. Then, if we had a better simulation of the laws of physics at the biological scale, presumably we would regenerate you. I mean, this has an obvious problem in that no one wants to have their head chopped off and sliced when there's not yet any way to actually upload or reconstitute your mind. The hope is that there will be a non-invasive way of scanning out all the detailed information within your brain, and we don't have that yet. But I'm optimistic this can be created. I mean, actually, most of the breakthroughs in brain imaging have come from, you know, weird, spooky quantum physics like positron emission tomography or magnetic resonance imagery and so forth. So I mean, it may be some new physics trick will come that lets you scan in detail what's in the brain through the skull. It could be something more exotic where you drill a bunch of nano holes in the head and put, say, carbon nanotubes wrapping up wires in the brain and just read everything out of the brain. Or I had another idea tying into Sofia. You know how Sofia has plastic on the back of her head? Now, if we got this to be a fashion trend, we can convince people to remove the bone in the back of their head and just put plastic on the back because it looks cool. But then you can put a lot of electrodes in that plastic, right? And then the people with plastic on the back of their head, they can have a direct brain-computer interface, right? So this is fashion meets neuroscience, right? And then if you can read through all those electrodes on the plastic cap on the back of the head, then you would gain enough data about someone's mind to upload them once we had a suitable computer. This idea is my own personal suggestion, not endorsed by Hanson Robotics, but by the way. The brain may have quantum mechanical aspects to its operation. We don't really know if those are significant at the level of, you know, human cognition, perception, and so forth. They may just be part of the infrastructure. If there are, you know, macroscopic quantum effects that are somehow responsible for some aspect of our thinking or our consciousness, I mean, then quantum computing is already a rising engineering discipline. What that would mean is not that we can't mind upload. It would mean we need to build the right type of quantum computer to mind upload. And there's a bunch of speculation about consciousness and quantum computing. Some people think, you know, a digital computer can't be conscious, or a quantum computer could be conscious. I'm a bit skeptical of that personally. I tend to panpsychism. I think everything is conscious, and some things are more conscious or differently conscious than others. And in that sense, maybe a robot has a different flavor of experience than a human. And indeed, if you uploaded my mind into a robot with a very different type of body than mine, it would have a different type of conscious experience. But my guess is it would still have conscious experience. But this will be an interesting thing to experiment with once we have biocomputers, digital computers, quantum computers, and so on, that are sophisticated enough to receive the data from a mind upload. I mean, we could even wire our brains into, or Wi-Fi our brains into the brains of our uploads or other people's uploads and see, like, do we feel their presence at the other end of the wire, or does it feel like wiring our brain into a brick, right? when you can do brain-computer interfacing, you can do brain-brain interfacing and human AI interfacing and get like a second-person knowledge of what it feels like to partially meld your mind with an upload or some other digital mind, which could be quite interesting. And sounds very fanciful, but you know, the internet sounded very fanciful. Something like Sofia sounded very fanciful in the late 60s and early 70s when I was a young child and started to read science fiction. So I've already seen a lot of things transfer from SF to reality. I have little doubt that AGI, mind uploading and brain-computer interfacing will do so. Actually, the thing I think people should be worried about is, you know, not whether these are technologically possible and not whether these ideas are going to lead to weird philosophical conundrums, because life itself is a weird philosophical conundrum anyway. I think the issue is more whether the power structures on the planet are going to lead to the, you know, the benefit from advancing technologies to be used in a very, very limited way, rather than used, say, to mind upload everyone into a virtual world where their uploads can experience amazing new things. I mean, if the singularity goes right, then all of us will have a lot of different possibilities. We can remain in our human form and solve you know, stomach aches, headaches, death, mental disease, and so on, remain like a human plus plus. We could mind upload into a virtual reality or into a robot and remain with roughly human-like consciousness, or boost the level of our consciousness and intelligence, double your intelligence every year, double it every minute, depending on how much you care about, you know, being conscious and reflective of the changes that are happening. And, you know, if you're in a world like this with super intelligent mind uploads or AIs, the legacy humans remaining in regular human bodies may be, you know, in the same status as the squirrels in the national park or something. They're not going to be in control of everything, but that's not necessarily bad. Having humans at their current level of intelligence and consciousness in control of everything is probably going to kill everyone somehow or other. So I think it's not the best outcome anyhow. What I've been working on mostly in the last couple years is a project called SingularityNET, which is aimed at pushing this singularity in a broadly beneficial direction by changing the dynamic wherein AI, now narrow AI, soon AGI, general intelligence, changing the dynamic in which AI is controlled by a dozen large corporations and 2 large governments. Because I think, you know, the super intelligence we're going to create is going to grow from the practical AIs that are rolled out around the world now that we're using for various things. So right now, what is AI mostly being rolled out for? Selling people stuff, mostly stuff they don't need. Governments to spy on their citizens, killing people from other countries for defense or offense, and then you know, gambling, basically trading on the stock market and futures market and so on. So you're doing like killing, spying, gambling, and selling. Now, if the super AI emerges from narrow AIs doing these things, how is it going to relate to the human beings who created it? Maybe not that well. So what we're aiming to do with SingularityNET, we've created a blockchain-based platform for AI, which is intended to allow, you know, anyone on the planet can put an AI online in this decentralized network. It can talk to the other AIs peer-to-peer. And if someone, be it a small company, a large company, whatever, needs AI services, they put a service request into this distributed, decentralized AI network. So it tries to make the world population of AI algorithms organized more like Bitcoin or Ethereum or BitTorrent or something, with like peer-to-peer decentralized governance. The governance is by the members of the network, rather than the governance by, say, Google, Amazon, Tencent, Donald Trump, or Xi Jinping, or any small set of controllers. And of course, that's a big vision. It's a hard thing to do. We raised some funds for this project, SingularityNET, in an ICO in 2017. We launched the beta of this platform in February of this year, and we're now basically getting AI developers onboarded to put AI into this decentralized platform. We've created a for-profit spin-off called Singularity Studio from SingularityNET, aimed at helping big companies to use this decentralized platform so that, you know, if a large corporation in the automobile industry or pharmaceuticals or whatever it is needs AI, you know, just like they use Linux, this open source operating system, why can't they use this decentralized network to get their AI instead of Google, Amazon, or Tencent or something? So this is what I've been working on, and it's, you know, it's, in a way, it's in one niche. It's blockchain to create a decentralized AI network and try to disrupt the AI industry. On the other hand, going back to the very beginning of this talk, all these different technologies are connected. And if you can roll out AI in a sort of democratic, participatory, controlled way, what that means is that as we get the capability to upload minds, we're more likely to have a world where the AIs that are helping to read out people's minds into computers and virtual realities and whatnot actually feel like devoting some hard drive space and some processor time to you know, running your uploads in some pleasant virtual reality, rather than simply saying, hey, you know, I have nothing against you humans in particular, but I could use your molecules for many other purposes than maintaining your mind uploads, right? So I think to briefly sum up, regarding mind uploading, the technology problems are hard. I think they'll be solvable in the next few decades. The philosophy problems are hard, will probably never be solved, and nobody will really care. And you know, the problem of engineering things so that society, as it goes through the singularity, actually wants to maintain everyone's mind uploads and let them have a great, you know, mind uploaded life. This is a bit chancy and depends on who owns and controls AIs as they move from narrow AI to artificial general intelligence. And to make it so that the singularity is developed for broad benefit rather than in some twisted way just for the benefit of a few large corporations and governments, that's not something just I can do. I mean, that requires a sort of community effort. The existence of things like Linux, BitTorrent, and cryptocurrency, which are distributed peer-to-peer efforts, gives me some hope in that regard. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ben. Okay, folks, if you can just come step forward here for a moment. We're now setting up the stage for your opportunity to ask questions. Some of you are probably familiar with what we're going to do now, but just to remind you, if you've got a question, we'd like you to come to either side of the stage here, line up. I'm going to step back momentarily to get to my powerful button, and now I'm going to ask our wonderful speaker, Ben, if he can take a seat here, right here, and we can get into the Q&A. So I'm going to head back over here. Okay, folks, come on up. Over to you, sir. Please, sit down. Ben, face your questioner, please.
Hi, Ben. So, if we could live as a virtual copy, would we be able to feel emotions? And furthermore, if we would like, if we would able to develop our emotional intelligence in this case? What do you think about it?
Scientifically, we don't yet know. There may be many different kinds of uploads, and we can't be sure. We could imagine, hypothetically, making one upload of you in one kind of computer that just acted like you, but didn't really experience anything, but just acted like it had emotions and feelings, and another copy of you in a different kind of computer that really had the same feelings that the original do. And this is a science question we need to unravel. My guess is that all these uploads are going to have the same type of feelings that you do, but I think it needs to be explored empirically, and will be very interesting to explore. For example, by, you know, wiring your brain into the brain of each of these uploads and sort of try to do a mind meld with them. Does it feel like another you, or does it feel like mind melding with a brick or a copy of Microsoft Word?
Next question.
So my question would be that would you live forever as a digital copy?
Would I personally live forever as a digital copy?
Yes.
I would like to live forever in a variety of different forms. So I'll keep this lousy old body alive, and I'll let a bunch of digital copies flourish. I don't want to make a choice unless I'm forced to.
Next question.
So if we could live forever as a digital copy, do you think we would have an overpopulation issue eventually?
There's a lot of matter in the solar system. So I think if only that technology advanced of mind uploading and nanotechnology and AI didn't also advance, we'd have that problem. But if we have superhuman AI minds and nanotech that can 3D print satellites and so on, I guess we're probably not going to actually hit that issue.
Hi. What kind of challenges do you have with selling this technology or convincing the community to actively use this? I mean, the mind uploading and...
Well, the main problem with convincing people to use mind uploading is it doesn't exist or work at this moment. So, I mean, do you want me to chop off your head, slice it, and freeze it, and store it on my hard drive?
I mean, if you have the technology.
I think with a lot of these technologies, people complain about something until it's actually put in front of them, and then they do it. And I think an immortality pill is like that. You talk about radical longevity to people, everyone's like, oh, death gives life meaning. The arc of getting old is beautiful, it gives right to great works of art. But I bet if you give these people a pill that will let them live like with their body of a 20-year-old for another 1,000 years, and then they can reconsider, 99% of them are going to take it. I think mind uploading will be like that. People will whine and complain, but when they see all their friends and neighbors romping in a virtual reality, having a great time, they're going to want to upload and join them.
So my question would be about Sofia, the robot. Why did you decide to give a gender to a robot, and why exactly the name Sofia?
The name Sofia was chosen because it means wisdom in Latin, I guess. And David Hansen, who created the sculpture that Sofia was made from and designed the material her face is made from, I mean, he began his career as a sculptor. So he's a classical sculptor. So he sculpted humans. He sculpted men and women because he thought they were beautiful, like every artist does, right? And he created a whole bunch of robots. My favorite is his Philip K. Dick robot from the science fiction writer Philip K. Dick. There's Bina 48, who's a middle-aged African-American woman. There's an Albert Einstein robot. So the real question to ask is of all the different, there's a child robot, two kid robots, I guess he made. One sort of like his own son, Zeno, the other named Diego-san. Of all the robots David Hansen made, you know, an attractive young white, not white, but whitish female robot is the one that caught the world by attention, right? And that's not the only robot David put out there. That's just the one that became a media darling, right? So that's really a question for the mass psychology of the globe rather than for Hansen Robotics. I mean, as to why to make robots humanoid or human-like, that's really because people want that. I mean, not everyone does, and the ones who don't want it don't have to have it, but many, many people react in a strongly positive way to interacting with a robot that can, you know, look them in the eyes, mirror their facial expressions. And we did some trials using the Sofia robot as a meditation guide, where she led people through various meditation, breathing, and visualization exercises. And, you know, about 30% of the people in those trials found it helped them get into a really profound sort of trance experience. And that doesn't happen if people are looking at, you know, a pepper robot or just a brick or something, right? So it's really for the interaction with humans. It's not because it matters for the AI. The AI just needs cameras and actuators.
Do you think our conscious could use a robotic body just straight, or we should use a fully virtualized body as an adapter or interface?
Oh, I think both will exist, robotic bodies and virtual worlds. My suspicion is that eventually it's going to be mostly virtual worlds. I mean, you can look at the realm of IT today. You still have bare metal servers, but then you've got containers and containers in containers, right? And so most of the action happens inside, Docker containers or LXC containers or something now in a modern cloud infrastructure, but you do still have the server there. So my guess is it's going to go like that. Most of the action will be in various virtual worlds, but maybe some people will prefer to go around in a physical body, even though it's more limited. Just like some people still like to build their own PC now, right?
Thanks for the great talk, Ben. At the beginning of your talk, you said there's technological questions and there's philosophical questions. And it doesn't really matter to answer the philosophical questions because we can live our lives regardless, right? So I'm wondering, shouldn't we as humans kind of sit together and try to answer these philosophical questions first? Because if we don't set out to define what do we even want as humanity, what do we even want as a species, it will be very difficult to get somewhere where we say, yeah, that's actually where we want to be, right? So I'm wondering, what's the meaning of anything if you can just live as a digital copy? And I'm wondering this because it seems like we never really defined as humanity what we even want.
Well, imagine there were 2 caves full of cavemen, like hundreds of thousands of years ago, and they were starting to develop language, like spoken language initially. One of them was like, wow, this is cool. We can use this to organize, hunting expeditions to capture mammoths and build new buildings. The other is like, no, we need to resolve all the issues in the syntax, semantics, and pragmatics of language before we go about using language to discuss anything, because otherwise, how do we know what direction it's going to go in? So, which of those led to us today, right? I mean, I think philosophy questions are not pointless. I just think philosophy is not about solving the problems or getting answers. I mean, by the process of working through the philosophy questions, I guess we enrich our understanding and we wind up doing the practical things in a different way, even though the questions actually never get answered, right? And so in terms of humanity agreeing on its goals and values, I mean, that's a really nifty idea, but when I look at the actual world today, I mean, how do we get the leaders of China, the US, Saudi Arabia, and Israel to agree on their goals and values, let alone a tribe in the Amazon? It seems like it's not going to happen. So.
Last question.
So basically what religion does to people is that it gives hope for an afterlife. If we create an afterlife for us here on earth, basically heaven incorporated, isn't that the end of religion and faith in general?
This is a big question because personally, I think we understand very, very little about the universe that we live in. And I'm somewhat convinced by some of the data on reincarnation that our minds, our individual minds, have some existence beyond the existence of our body in the 4D space-time continuum. But I don't believe any of the stories told by traditional religion. So I think there are many spooky things about the universe we don't understand, and that building technologies to do mind uploading and AGI and massive scale virtual worlds will probably let us understand all these things a lot better. But imagine if there is some kind of reincarnation and we create a mind upload of you, will that connect you and your mind upload, right? I mean, there may be a lot of cool things we can't even imagine now, but traditional religions as they exist now, I'm guessing in 50 years these will not be prevalent. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Thank you.